Hi, I'm Mandy Kaser. Today we're going to go over this PowerPoint, which I've specially designed to go with this screencast. I am part of the Holistic Health program based out of Colorado at the Front Range Community College. I am currently in the fall 2014 class under Joanna Yarmany. My study time for the study ranged from the 7th of October 2014 to the 30th of October 2014. It's a span of 3 weeks. A little bit about the herbal history here. It was around 3000 BC when some of the first records between the Egyptians and the Chinese that records were found. It was the 19th century when the use of herbs as medicines became lesser used. This occurred due to the scientists and their chemical analysis objectives performed. This in turn allowed them to find ways to isolate properties of the herbs for use through chemical creations, or what we know now as pharmaceuticals today. According to the Egyptian writings, some of the first herbs ever used were as followed: aloe vera, cinnamon, otherwise known as cassia, fennel, frankincense, juniper, and even thyme were some examples. Herbology has been used since around 3000 BC. To reiterate, the health benefits it holds within its own constituents. Every herb holds its own constituents, or otherwise understood as chemical makeup. Within each herb holds various constituents. Each herb has a different effective healing property attached to it. Some of the constituents can be toxic or sensitizing, as well as beneficial, however. Very important part I cannot stress enough here: safety precautions. They should always be taken before the use of any new introduced herb. Research each herb using reputable, I stress reputable there, sources before using or suggesting, especially in any circumstance. One of the first resources I used for the study was through the University of Maryland Medical Center. One of the second sources I used was through the World Health Organization. One of the third sources I used was from a healthy.net website, and this was in relation to the article of Herbal Medicine, Natural Medicine for the Recovering Addict, which was written by Janet Zan. And then the fourth and last source I used was a book I've actually had on hand for a long time, and I actually got it during the early 2000s during my own recovery process from heroin and Xanax. This book was released in 2002 and has since then been widely recognized as a valuable resource even into today. The book is called Prescription for Herbal Healing, and it was written by Phyllis A. Bulk. It has a genuinely valuable section about alcoholism. Although it didn't have much about addiction, this worked great for the two alcoholics within my study project. So this section helped me to relate to the subjects of addiction recovery, and last but not least, it was useful in how it covered the herbal addiction recovery needs. It also covered the nutritional needs for the addiction recovery process furthermore. My rationale and hypothesis of research study: I chose the use of herbology as my main focus to this research study for both personal and scientific reasons. Personally, when I was working through my own addiction recovery back in the early 2000s, I noticed that it was through the help of herbs like valerian, California poppy, chamomile, and even like passion flower and some others that dramatically reduced the severe relapse urges I imagined I was going to have, but turned out I didn't. Then on a more scientific level, I have always been inspired by the constituents and the properties that each various herb and herbal formula holds within it. Scientifically relative, I am most excited about the medicinal value properties of different herbs and what they can help with. For instance, from balancing to healing to health maintenance and even nutritional values, herbs have been being used since before 3000 BC and now is finally making its much welcome comeback to our world as we know it. This is exciting for me, which means easier access to it, which means more healthy us's. Anyways, moving on. Since trying to reestablish one's life during the addiction recovery process is a main focus, how great would it be to have the use of natural herbs to help them along the recovery process? Will herbology affect the addiction recovery process with better rehabilitation successes? I hypothesize that if I suggest designated herbs or herbal formulas to each addict in their phase of recovery, then there will be a lesser chance of relapse stress and more relaxation induced to ease each addict patient through the recovery process as a success instead. A little bit about the research method I used for the study. I started the study by selecting 6 friends of friends or friends of family within a 50-mile radius of where I reside. Each study subject or addict was in agreement with working with me and understood they would be part of my study furthermore. After getting verbal confirmation that each of the 6 study subjects I chose would cooperate with my study, I then set up 2 appointments per day at my home, either on the farm, at their home, or a nearby park in between us. And this went on for 3 days in a row. I basically consulted with 2 different study subjects for 3 days straight to help you understand. This was my best full attentive way to analyze each addiction recovery process plan and get all the consents and agreements, health assessments, health information questionnaires, health history sheets, and basically all the paperwork signed and completed at once. After all the paperwork was completed, I immediately used it to begin our initial consults. This initial up to 1 hour consultation is performed to figure out what the best herb and other added holistic health technique or modality in relation to their specific addiction recovery process plan will consist of. After formulating a specific and different addiction recovery plan for each of my 6 study subjects, I then gave them optimum resources to gain the herbs or techniques which I suggested to them during their recovery process. This study was to run course for 3 weeks total. During each week, I would either meet face-to-face with them, or if that was impossible, I would touch base through a phone conversation, or even leave the messages on their answering service. I also left it open with my number and email. They can get in contact with me 24/7 as well. That I did not add in here, and just now remember to make note of. Now, my initiative to weekly check-ins was to help keep them all on track within their recovery process plan goals. My analysis results: my 6 volunteer addiction recovery process plan research study subjects are as follows to help give you a more precise understanding of the study as a whole. Due to this fact that each of my clients has the right recovery to keep their names private, which is the whole anomalous part to rehabilitation, I have included only their first names for their research study paper. Now, I do mention here on my PowerPoint that their names do remain on the actual paperwork. However, it was after I did this that I went ahead for them for their own extra added protection and scribbled out their names on the paperwork. Last names, not their first names. Their real names do remain on the actual paperwork, though, as I just mentioned. It doesn't really, it's only the first name. Moving on, they gave me permission to release other personal information as long as their names were never released within this paper or project. My first subject was Rachel. She was a mother of 2 young boys, the age of 31, and lived in the Culver, Indiana vicinity. She began working recently as a massage therapist based in the Chicago, Illinois region, a couple times a week. So she was pretty much one of my favorite study subjects during this, because she was already on the path, but it was easier to work with her. She understood it. She was able to keep on it, and she was actually one of my perfect results actually for the study. Moving on. Nutritionally, we kept her basically on everything she was already doing. She was already on, raw foods. She was already doing pretty much most of exercise, everything right. So all we really did with her is told her to keep up with it, increase the color of her variety in her daily intake of raw foods, maybe. We also told her to continue to reduce the red meat intake and also eat more vegetable proteins in replacement. And her exercise plan consisted of what she's been doing: 3 days a week yoga or running a mile, only increase your running or other cardiovascular exercise to an additional day a week, if not 2 additional weekly. Basically 5 days a week of yoga and or cardio exercises are the goal for her optimum results she desires. As far as stress reduction with Rachel, we decided to have her continue to do deep breathing exercises when in a road rage or anxiety-stricken mode. I also suggested she do meditations nightly as the long-term goal, and start with meditations nightly before bed for at least 3 nights a week to start with. I gave her the options of success through focal point visualization meditation furthermore. And then last but not least, we decided to keep her on the same regimen of multivitamins, probiotics, and Hawaiian spirulina she was already taking in her smoothies daily. I then also suggested to keep her balanced energy levels. She tried 500 milligrams and gradually building it up to 1,000 milligrams of maca root powder. And that would be this here. This is what it looks like in powder form. And then after that, I also suggested she try taking Schisandra berry powder. I just say powder. It didn't have to be powder. It's just easier to work with, personally, in my opinion. If you have powders, you can put it in smoothies or capsule it yourself. It works as an adaptogen herb. Adaptogen herbs are great because they help to completely balance your entire system as a whole. Mind, body, spirit, this is the herb for you, as an example. Now, the 3-week final results from the study turned out to be optimal to what my initiative to performing the study was. She reported weekly how more uplifted and clear-minded she was. Then on the last visit we had, the 3rd week, she even revealed that she did in fact feel an almost complete balance of body, mind, and spirit as a whole. That's fabulous. It's exactly what I'm going for, and had no fits or urges for a relapse during this 3 weeks. Now, my second addiction recovery process is a 27-year-old. Her name was Ashley. She lived in the Mishawaka area. Her issue was actually cocaine. And that was her main issue. And she wanted help with increasing her lack of energy and to help her quit smoking. So for her, we decided that we would watch a YouTube video, and I also gave her a printout of beginner yoga, and I told her to increase her daily water intake. I told her to exercise. She was not doing any kind of exercise, so we decided to start her with the beginner yoga. Then once she developed that, she needed to start that 3 times weekly. If a session of yoga was mixed, she could jog a mile in replacement as, another form of cardiovascular. The objective was to start her off slow and then graduate, things as she saw fit. Then we covered the stress reduction. Here we determined that the best stress reduction method of use would be letting go of stress or negativities by her nearby Lake Michigan. This was the first one, I actually gave one of these nifty things to. I had purple and white. This was for calming and stress reduction, and this was for smoking cessation. So since at least 3 of them, maybe 4, of my study subjects wanted help with smoking cessation, this was the one I gave them. And this one includes 4 drops of lavender, 4 drops of peppermint, and 2 drops of eucalyptus essential oil for smoking cessation. I also then advise she keep up with taking Hawaiian spirulina and add it to a smoothie. And I also suggest a dandelion tea as well, which will also help with the detoxification of her liver and kidneys. Then, this was actually another great example. Once again, to my amazement, I saw a huge increase in the attitude, energy level, and determination to be healthy in mind, body, and spirit as a whole. She not only grew to be an enjoyment to consult with over the last 3 weeks of the study, she also feels no immediate doom to become a relapse number in a recovery process again either. She said she felt more energized to tackle accomplished tasks both now, and even feels she is ready to return to a job finally, after more than a year of having no passion to do so. She reported that although she is still smoking cigarettes, she has switched to American Spirits and has in 3 weeks gotten her habit to go from 1.5 packs a day down to 1 pack to last her 5 to 7 days time. That's a big step for her. She claims that the inhaler stick I gave her, specifically the one made for smoking, has come in handy to her in the middle of being out in public like a shop or restaurant or so forth. And basically her results are just great. I would totally consider her a success to the study. Moving onward, I'm not going to get into detail on the other subjects because, as I mentioned previously, they were not successes. So I'm just going to go over this pretty quickly. And if you want to actually see it, I will add a video link to just the PowerPoint itself. What I learned from this study is that although it's not a total success, I did consider it a success for the 2 study patients that did work out. I do want to go ahead and add that next time I do perform a study, I'm going to make sure I kind of pinpoint things down a little more.